Good morning, everyone. We yesterday got up to learning about Yaakov, our father, Yaakov, and how he prepared the way for the Torah and the commandments to fix up this physical world. We're learning from a book which is called Torah Or. It's written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, Rebbe Shneur Zalman, and he explains every detail of the strange historical event, which is recorded only in the Torah, that occurred between Yaakov and God. Nobody saw it. There were no witnesses. There was no videos. And what happened between Yaakov and God? That it says that Yaakov didn't sleep for 14 years because he was learning the Torah. And now God sends. He's on his way to go to this terrible place, which is called Haran. And Haran is the worst place in the world as far as Torah and the commandments goes. And I mean, we're getting a little bit of a taste of that now, actually, in the world, what's going on. But it's all these forces against Judaism, murder and licentiousness and decadence and destruction. That's what was the deception. Oh, deception was good. He was going to Lavan, the brother of his mother. Excuse me. He's going over there to Lavan's house. Lavan is called an Arami. Lavan the tricker. That was his name. It was Lavan the deceiver. There was ever such a person called by that name. The great deceiver. There was Peter the Great and what is William the Conqueror. His name was Lavan the deceiver. And he was famous for it. He was proud of it. And you'll see that he really does get deceived over there. So Yaakov is going and says, on the way, this is before anything happens. Eventually, he's going to have a battle with an angel, and he's going to meet up with Esav, and he's not going to sleep for 30 years, for 20 years, it says. And before this whole business starts, so he does this monumental preparation. What's the preparation? He takes a lot of stones, puts them under his head, and he goes to sleep. And he has a dream with a ladder, and then he wakes up and he sees that these stones have become one stone, and he pours oil over them. And he says, if I come back to the house of my father, Beit Avi, to the house of my father, then this stone will be a house for God. That's it. So that's the basic preparation for the Jewish people fixing up the world, making the world into a godly and an orderly and a blessed and a happy and a harmonious place. How does that make any sense? He didn't make any speeches. He didn't really explain what he did. He didn't show any sort of mystical signs or what is it called, charms or something, to give us what type of nobody knows where this pillar is today, even though it says that the place where this happened was in the place of the Holy Temple, where the Holy Temple was going to be in another, what is it, 800 years? No, 400 years. No, more than that. What are we talking about? It's going to be in another 600 years, 700 years, right? The Jewish people got out of Egypt about 200 years after Jacob, and they wandered in the desert for 40 years, and then 440 years more they were in Israel before they built the first temple. So it was about 600 years, something like that, late. The first temple was built, but this is the place of the temple. So the Rebbe says, what's going on over here? Takes a bunch of stones, he puts them under his head, he pours oil on them. It's going to be a house of God. How can you make the house of God from a stone? So the Rebbe says that that's the whole point of the Jewish people. That this world is made from God's speech, and God's speech, it's two opposites. On one hand, it has meaning. So everything in the world has some sort of meaning to it because it's speech. On the other hand, speech is made of letters, which letters have no meaning whatsoever. No meaning. And even if they're arranged in an improper way, it has no meaning or the wrong meaning. We're going to see an example of that soon. So the wrong meaning. So this whole world is made from this meaningless units of energy, if you want to call it, or the letters of God. And although there is definitely meaning here, but you have to have two things. Number one, you have to arrange the letters in a proper way, and also you have to understand what you're reading. Right? If your book is written in French and you arrange all the letters properly, let's say all the letters are jumbled up, but you don't understand French, so you haven't got anything. Not only that, here we got a world where it's not just that you have to rearrange the letters. The 99% of the world are unnecessary letters, or just confusing letters. There's things you're not allowed to do. Right? There's all sorts of methods of stealing and lying and cheating. Right? You go to jail, you see all these people that have all these different plans of how to trick people and hurt people and destroy people, and this and there's weapons of destruction and plans of destruction and this and cheating and lying and without end. And so you're not supposed to do those things. So those are parts that you're supposed to reject. Nevertheless, the point of Yaakov was here, of Jacob, is the point of the Jewish people. Jacob eventually becomes, we'll see in this week's Torah portion, he becomes Yisrael. So Yisrael and the Bnei Yisrael is to rearrange this world, rearrange the world. How do you rearrange the world? In our thoughts, speech, action, attitude. By treating the world differently, then the world becomes different. Right? By looking at the world in a different way, it becomes different. And this is so, it's a thing you don't even have to necessarily say. You can see in education, how you treat people, that's how they'll receive from you, right? You treat children in a way that they're dummies and that they don't know anything. And so you'll see that there's a big proportion of dummies. But if you treat the children, even though they have an IQ of 1 or who knows what, if you treat them that they're intelligent, all of a sudden you see that they become intelligent. Right? Maybe in a different area than you, maybe in a different, but at least they believe in themselves. The world changes. The world changes according to what we how we take it. And even more, God changes. That's the purpose of Chassidut. The day that we actually change God, we can actually bring blessings into the world. It's not really changing God. God set the world up in such a way that if we do this, he'll react this way. But the whole name of the game is this world. So Yaakov is fixing up this physical world, and that's a big novelty. That's what we got up to. That's what it means. I'll come back to the house of my father. He said, I will come back to my house of my father. It's talking about Yitzchak. And Yitzchak, that's the end idea of happiness, joy, if you want to call it a joke, humor. What's humor is when something unusual happens. To take this physical world and to transform it into something meaningful, that's amazing. That's really amazing. You see sometimes now, there's people, they take, if you look up, they take like tin cans or something like that, who knows what, tin cans or pieces of junk that they found in the ground, and you look at it and it seems like nothing. But if you stand far back, all of a sudden you realize, wow, it's a picture of, George Washington or something, that they arrange it in such a way that it looks like a picture. You have to stand back and all of a sudden you see the eyes and the nose. Wow, this is amazing. Who would ever believe that this is just pieces of, thrown away cloth or something? That's what we can do. If we take the world and we just arrange it properly, so when we stand back, we can see, and we can make an order from apparent junk. And that's a novelty. That's a happy thing. Oh, that's new. Just in general, that a person can take paint and paint a picture, that's also a novelty. Especially if it's accurate. He takes just a piece of chalk or a piece of, whatever is it, graphite that's in a pencil, whatever it's made of, and he draws a picture. Oh, look at it! It's a picture of me. I look and see that's a novelty. It's a new thing. He takes paper and black color, and he looks like a person. Right? Looks like me. Sometimes you can even cry. Oh, it's a picture of my father. How I loved my father. So the same thing with the world. The world is just this material things. That's letters. Letters are just sounds, material sounds. They mean nothing. Mean nothing whatsoever. Nothing. When you take the world, take the sounds and you put them together, it's very nice. It's the same thing. You take the world and you put it in a proper order, so it's an amazing thing. What's the proper order? That's what the Torah gives us. How to make the world in a proper order. Now, notice that we're not talking about going to heaven over here. We're not talking about going to heaven, and we're not talking about avoiding going to hell. There is such a thing, heaven and hell, but it's in, at least in Chassidut, in specifically, really, and Judaism in general, it is not stressed. It is not stressed. There is definitely a thing, and sometimes you definitely have to use these ideas in order to get people in line, but that's not at all the point of Judaism. The point of Judaism is to tell you how to serve God, not how to get rewards and avoid punishment. To get through this, it's not what is it called, an economics class to tell you how to invest your time and how to invest your this, so you get the biggest profit. No, okay, in a way it is, but it's how to give the biggest profit to God. That's the point. So it says a person that really doesn't think about himself and he really thinks about what God wants and he does what God wants, and it's going to be a tremendous opposition. That's the whole thing of the land of Israel. We see it so clearly happening right now. So clearly happening right now. The Jewish people are starting to come back to their senses. But they're starting to come back to their senses and realizing that all the other methods and religions and things are just making confusion in the world. It's just, like taking a big puzzle, and the puzzle is supposed to be a picture of, of a landscape in Jerusalem, something like that, with the mountains and everything. You take it instead, you try to make it into a ship or into a dog or a boat or something like that. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. What are all these extra pieces over here? Let's just get rid of them. And it doesn't work. And so Judaism is how to actually make the world the way that the Creator wants it to be. And it's a big novelty if you succeed in doing it, because God purposely made the world in a confusing way. And if you ask me, he overdid it. And if you ask Moses, he also overdid it. Moses said, why are you torturing these people? Okay, but nevertheless, when we do it, it gives God a pleasure. Okay, so it says that's a tremendous pleasure that God gets, and that's the idea of Yitzchak. It says, Hainu b'chdei, in order sheyeh kafia, that's why God creates the world, b'chdei, in order sheyeh kafia, that there will be forcing forcing yourself, this and transforming darkness to light. Lahafoch et kol midos, to transform all of your bad character traits, she'em ahava barishvei eish shel hevle olam, that you have love and desire, lust and excitement for this physical world, or kas, or you get angry at this world. And to transform them, sheyeh rak l'Hashem, that they should only be to God alone. And to totally surrender your will, to harmonize your will with the will of the Creator alone. Not to be a separate ego, separate on your own. This is called tshuva. Excuse me. This idea of making the creation to reveal the Creator, that's called tshuva. The word tshuva means to return. To return to our senses. In our case, there's the Jewish senses. This is with more power. Namely, to take your bad character traits, which are rishpei eish, and to flaming fire for this world, and to transform them and to return them to God alone. Big novelty. And it's just like nowadays they have, here in Israel, they have all these prisoners. The Hamas took all these people as prisoners. Nobody knows if they're alive. Nobody knows what they're doing to them. Took them all as prisoners. So the families are going crazy and want their children back. And if their children come back, they'll be so happy and so full of gratitude and just crying and jumping with joy and with love and this. But the children were always there before. Why didn't they love and were so happy before? And why not? And why, let's say, all the other people in Israel that they do have children that were not taken into captivity, thank God, why aren't they so happy with them and hugging them every day and kissing them and saying, well, I'm so glad you were not taken? Because when something happens that's bad, the opposite, the way it's supposed to be, unhealthy, and that thing goes away and you come back, that's a big novelty, it's a big happiness. Right? A person that was, a lot of these people that they put, they in prison, they put them in prison unjustly. And they come out and they're just grateful. They're grateful that they're finally out. They're angry that they wasted so much of their lives. Everything like that, but okay, they give them a couple $1 million. But the point is that if they're smart, if they're normal, if they're human, they say, I'm so grateful that I got out. They're happy. Happiness, they appreciate life in a way they never appreciated it before. And that's the whole idea of why God created the world in such a terrible way and why it's so easy to do bad things. And when we do bad things, it makes the world even more confusing. And to defy the world and to defy the negativity of the world is a big novelty. And to transform that defiance, that's called, in Hebrew, it's called eskafia, forcing yourself to do good, forcing yourself to turn from bad, defying the bad, defying negativity. And then eshapcha means that the world all of a sudden becomes good. You don't have to force yourself anymore. It becomes good world. And that's the whole idea. That's called tshuva. That's what it means, a makam bali tshuva, a place where a person that does tshuva, where he returns to God, a person who returns from bad is in a higher place where even the biggest righteous Jews are. They can't stand up. By means of this, and by means of this, it makes a tremendous pleasure to God. That's what Jacob started, Yaakov. In order, this is from the level of eskafia, what we said, forcing yourself, eshapcha, and transforming. Willpower and pleasure. Willpower means you force yourself to do good, to turn from bad. And eshapcha means you enjoy, you love doing good, and you cannot stand, you're disgusted by anything that's negative, anything that's against the Torah. The transform from darkness to light. But that's what it means. That's what it means. It's good. One moment of doing tshuva, liot she'al yedei bechinas tshuva, by means of doing tshuva, davka nasa tainu. There's a tremendous pleasure above, so much shehu mamish kamashal tzipor medaberes. It's just like this talking bird we talked about before. Then micharon rina. Right, so it's like if the king is all depressed and he says, I want somebody, they bring in jugglers and jokers and things like that. The king said, I already heard those things. I already heard. Once in a while, a funny joke. Some guy comes in with a chicken. He says, what is this? Chicken. He says, Your Majesty, give me a chance. Says to the chicken, say something. He said, how are you, my Majesty? It is such a pleasure to be standing in front of you today. So one second, this guy's obviously a ventriloquist, right? He says, no. Give him to somebody else. Gives him to one of his, you leave the room, leaves the room. Your Majesty, I would like it much better if you would give me back my owner so that I could speak to you in a calm way. So, wow, this is just amazing. Maybe he has a recording inside him. It's a talking bird, a talking chicken. This is amazing. The king is so, this is great. Wow. You know what? I'm going to make a special chair. He can sit next to me. Maybe he can give me advice. The chicken, who knows? Maybe this is just an amazing thing. Right? The king is happy because it's a talking bird, a bird that doesn't talk. He makes it talk. That's what the world is. The world is like a big talking chicken. The world has no ability to talk, no intelligence whatsoever, no desire to serve God. The world is just the world. And when you make the world talk that the world actually serves God, this is a big novelty. And the king of the universe, is very happy. We said, then from this level of Charon, there becomes Rina. You just rearrange the letters of Chet, Resh, and Nun become the same thing. Hey, Resh, and Nun, right? Wrong. This is a Chet and this is a Hey. How is this rearranging it? Kanota, like it's known, Chometz. There's Chometz and Matzah. Chometz and Matzah. Chometz is one of the worst sins in Judaism, is to eat chometz on Passover. What is chometz? Chometz is like a bagel. Huh? You ever eat a bagel? No problem. If it's a kosher bagel, no problem. You eat a bagel, God forbid, a bagel on Pesach, 7 days of Pesach, worst sin. It's going against God. You get cut off. Terrible sin. To eat chometz on Passover, what they're talking about. Some people don't even say the words in the same breath. Chometz and Pesach, it's the two opposites. Like Haman and Mordechai. It's just not the... Chometz is one of the worst sins. It says matzah, on the other hand, is one of the biggest commandments. It's called the food of faith. What's the difference between chometz and matzah? Is the letter mem is here, mem. The letter tzadik is here. In chometz there's a chet, and in the matzah there's a hey. Same thing as here. Charon means like, I say, bad. It means like burning anger, or it means to be hoarse throat, whatever. Charon off. Charon. It says, Rina is joy, singing. Same letters. The difference is the chet and the hey. But the letter chet and the letter hey are very similar. 3 sticks, see, chet, 3 sticks. Rina, 3 sticks. The difference is that the word Rina has a little space over there, see? In the hey, there's a little space. Can we maybe make this a little bit bigger and everyone will see? See, here we go. Here's the letter hey. See the letter hey? That's, and the letter chet, where's the letter chet? We got a chet over here. Must be here. This, he sees a chet. So chet and hey are the same. It's just a little space over here. The same thing with matzah, which has a hey in it, and chometz, which has a chet in it. So there we go. So he said that's the whole deal of taking this world and just rearranging the letters so that it becomes a happy place, from charon, which means terrible, to rina, which means joy. Kanota, like that's the same thing as chometz and matzah. You open up a little bit this chet on the top, open it, and it becomes a hey. That's opening up, means letting godliness come in. Shemiut, from the letter chet of chometz, becomes the letter hey, like it says in the Zohar in Parshat Pinchas on that says gar chayat kana. It says over there, it's from one of the Psalms of King David. It says there screams out the animals of the swamp. And it says gar means you can cut off the chet. The kana is the stick of the chet. You cut it off and it becomes, from a chet you become a hay. Gar means also to cut off. And it becomes matzah. So what's the difference between chometz and matzah? The letter chet is all closed up. It's only open on the bottom, and the letter matzah is open on the top. And that's what we do. And when you let a little bit of godliness into the world, then it shows that the world is not so bad. You just have to rearrange it. And similarly, mecharon, from this letter charon, nasa becomes rina. Like it says, le'ibud rishoim, when there is destroyed evil people, rina, there is joy. This is pleasure, which is done above, made above, from eskafia beshapcha, from self-control and self-transformation, etc. Okay, all of this is Yaakov. That's what Yaakov, all the troubles that Yaakov was going through, that's why Yaakov came down into Haran. And that's why our soul, what is this? That's why our soul, what happened over here? Oh, I see here. That's why our soul comes down into the body. Same reason as why Yaakov came into Haran. Behold, bechinas tainug, this pleasure that God gets, yitgaleh, will be revealed la'atid, only in the future davka. All the suffering of the Jewish people from this haron, this terrible world that we're in, and all the suffering that the Jewish people have experienced, and all the unanswered prayers and all the frustrations that the Jewish people have experienced through these thousands of years, and a lot of them were also self-inflicted. I mean, the temples were destroyed and etc. But nevertheless, all of the time that the Jewish people held on to godliness. I mean, listen, you can imagine how the Jews felt after the first temple was destroyed. All the Jewish people were all in Israel. It was wonderful, and the prophets came and they told the Jewish people, don't sin. Come on, get it all together. And they sinned, and the temple was destroyed. So when the temple was destroyed, the first temple, that was like, that was obviously the end of Judaism. They had their chance. They had the Holy Temple. All the Jews were together in Israel. That's what Moshiach is supposed to do. And they wrecked the whole thing up, and the temple was destroyed. So everyone said that's it. Came along the prophets and said, look, if you read the prophets closely, you'll see that it says that God is going to get mad and that God will scatter you and God will this and that. But God said, I'll never leave the Jewish people. And the Jewish people said, okay, it won't leave us, but, it doesn't look like it's going to work. And it did work. The Jewish people came back and they built the second temple, and then the second temple gets destroyed. So obviously they're going to say, we're finished. There's no, and through the time, the 2,000 years we've been in exile, all these bizarre things have happened, and all these weird philosophies and and different permutations and how do you call it, and twistings of Judaism and what Judaism is, and weird religions that made war against Judaism, and then the religions that claim that they are the Jews and that God left the Jews and the Jews accepted it, and this is all these different things. Nevertheless, the fact of the matter is that Jews have always held on. They always defied the church, and they defied the Islam, and they defied the what's it called, the Zionism and the atheism and all these other movements. They defied, and they've held on firmly. And then comes the Holocaust. Then the Holocaust comes along and it wrecks everything up. So, and nevertheless, still Jews have held on. And all these Jews, so many Jews that who knows how many that Stalin killed and how many of this, and nobody knows where they're buried and this. Okay, it says that nevertheless, all this somehow or other, because Jews held on to their Judaism, they still believe. This is called eskafia, forcing yourself to do what God wants against all odds. Who did this? Who did such a crazy, ridiculous thing as that, to believe in God, even though all of the evidence to the contrary? Abraham. Abraham went through 10 tests, terrible, awesome tests. Each one of those tests were proof, factual, actual proof that God is not worth believing. Not worth it to believe in God. God makes promises, he doesn't keep them. Abraham's wife is taken into captivity. She's kidnapped, and God, all the terrible things that happened to Abraham. And Abraham said, listen, God, you do whatever you want to, and I'm going to do what I want to. I want to believe in you. That's it. This was inherited to the Jewish people. Why? Because, number one, it's true. And number two, God gets pleasure from it. What are we going to get out of it? So notice what the Rebbe is saying. It's not that when you go to heaven, you're going to get no. He said all of this is going to be la'atid in the future, when Mashiach comes. Sha'az, then, that ruach hatuma avir, then this world will be good. Shalo ye'od bechinas choshech, there won't be any darkness or pirut. Kamoshu akshav, like it is now, balias v'yuridos, going up and down. Ella, kamoshu katuv, like it says, b'charisha v'katzir tishbot. Like it says, you will be able to rest. B'charisha v'katzir tishbot, like it is in the seventh, in the Shemitah year, in the, what is it called, the sabbatical year. Like it's explained in another place. It'll be good. Or there'll be revealed godliness lamata below, yichud, in a unified way. That's like we're saying. Can you imagine, let's say, all these people now that are taken in prison that the Hamas may their name be blotted out forever. May they all get exactly the punishment that they deserve in a revealed way. But nevertheless, when these children come back, when these people that are in prison, in kidnapped, when they come back, everybody's going to be happy. Oh, they came back up. Imagine if you could be that happy all the time. You could appreciate life, and not just your own children, but everybody. You just appreciate seeing a human being. But what a wonderful, happy world that it would be. Also, you appreciate yourself. People don't appreciate themselves. They put themselves into imprisoned in their own thoughts and their own ideas. So that's what it means in the future, that the light of God will be revealed. The light of goodness will be revealed everywhere. And everything, people won't be thinking about themselves. Just like it is above, in the upper worlds, up in the upper worlds, where there everybody's free, but it's not really a world. A person goes to heaven after he serves God, and he does everything he's supposed to do, and he goes up to heaven, but it's not a world. There's no challenges. It's like being in a home for the aged. Okay, so you get all these, and blessings or whatever. You can watch whatever television program you want to, and you get free chocolate, and it's warm, and it says, but you want to be in the world. You want to do things. It's like having electrodes attached to your brain, and you experience all these, experiences that you can imagine. You want to be elected president of the United States. Yes, press this button. I'm elected. It's good, but you're not really doing anything. It's just, it's, you say subjective feelings, which some people say that's the world now anyway, but they're wrong. The fact is that there's more. The world can surprise us. If everything in the world is subjective, then there's no surprises. Everything is inside of me anyway. We let God surprise us. And the biggest surprise, that's like the talking bird. Sha'ata now is ma'en liyesh. Now the world is nothing. From nothing comes something. Masha'enki and lati, which is not the case. Miyesh, this physical world will be la'ayin. The physical world will be totally surrendered to ayin, to its source. Because bitl of its hapcha, the world will be transformed. Will feel that everything is a miracle. Everything is a surprise. Every instant will be a pleasant, wonderful novelty, because God is renewing it all the time, and we don't feel it. We don't feel that He's renewing us. Same old world, same old creation, same old life. Life is such a beautiful thing. It's like these big rock and roll stars, they get up on the stage the first time, I can't believe it, 100 people came to listen to me. Then after that, a couple of weeks, 1,000 people came to listen to me. I don't believe it. 10,000 people I filled up a stadium. 100,000 people came to listen to me. He made a record. He's on. I don't believe it. 100 million people looked at me and watched me. A week after that, 100 million people. Another week, same 100 million. Another week after that, another 100 million. 100 million doesn't get any better. I mean, a month later, 99 million people. This is not going good. A week after that, 98 million. There was a guy like that in Israel. There's a guy like that in Israel. He had the highest rating of anybody else on television by far, but his rating started to drop. People got tired of him, and he committed suicide. A very famous person. Just happened, 10 years ago or something. He was jealous of anybody else. The guy he had better rating than anybody else. No, I don't appreciate it. Same thing, we don't appreciate the world because we think it's ours. Everything happens to me. And we can't look at it that I don't deserve anything. I'm just an amazing miracle that I'm alive. And that God creates me. And that He gave me potential. And I should use this potential to do good. So that's what's going to be in the future. It says that's the whole idea of the future, the physical world. The Azai then, Yitkala will be revealed, Bechinas Oneg will be revealed, this pleasure Elyon, the upper pleasure of God, Shuba Bechinas Ein Sof, which is infinite. V'hu Bechinas Yom HaZayin, this is what's called the seventh day, the day which is totally Shabbat. U'menucha l'chai olamim. The day of Shabbat ideally is supposed to be where you appreciate God. You appreciate the Creator. This is revealed pleasure, Elyon, Kanoda, like it's known. It's made from all these refinements that we made in the world, Bashis Alfei Shanim, in the 6,000 years of this world, of the time of this terrible terrible exile that we've been in. But that's what it means, Veshavti. That's what Jacob said, Yaakov said. I'm going to take all these stones, I'm going to unify them all together. I'm going to pour oil, which is the wisdom of God, the feeling, the awareness of God on top of them. And then I'm going to go back to the house of my father, El Beit Avi. That's talking about Chazara, when the whole world returns and goes back to Yaakov. He goes from Haron to Rina, to the thing of Yitzchak, tzchok, happiness. Beit Avi, that's the level of Yitzchak. That's tzchok v'tainug, joy and pleasure, Elyon of God, Shitgaleh, that will be revealed la'atid in the future. Mibechinet et kafia v'et from this we call self-control and self-transformation and controlling the world and transforming the world, like we said before. That's why it says in the future, Yitzchak davka ki ato avinu. That's why it says about Yitzchak that you are our father, Yitzchak. We discussed this yesterday. We said the future redemption, which is going to be when everything is in its proper place and all the Jews are in Israel and the Holy Temple is built and everybody realizes that they're being created by God and everybody's happy and everybody realizes their the tremendous potential which is in every human being. It says all of that is going to be due, we're going to give the credit to Yitzchak. Why Yitzchak? The Yod, because and this is the ultimate purpose and the descent, the Shtalshlus, and the coming down, the chain of coming down of the worlds. Kadei, in order, Shal Yudei said that by means of this, there will be tzchok, there will be this happiness and pleasure above canal. I will come back in peace. So let's take the example that I just gave. I mean, something good has to come out of this terrible tragedy with this Hamas. And one thing that'll come out, that when it is resolved and all the people that are in prison and in captivity, when they come back, so everybody's going to appreciate people more, especially their families, but everybody else also. You know, if the media in Israel especially has any sense, then when this thing comes out good and everybody comes back, that's what they'll be occupied in day and night. The miracle of life, the miracle of being a Jew, the miracle of being good, not to be like those evil people. The miracle of every moment, the miracle of having a family, of having children, being a parent, being a child. Hopefully they'll bring out the miracle which is occurring not just when people get freed from the oppression of what is anti-Semitic oppression, but when the people get freed from their own egotism. And that's what it means, Veshavdi b'shalom. That's the thing of Yitzchak. Yitzchak is happiness, joy, ki bechinas owning this level of God's pleasure, Shidgala, which will be revealed in the future. Who davkal yedei bechinas halos v'hamshachos. It comes because of the work we're doing now, the ups and downs, the hopes and the disappointments and the successes and the failures, and serving God. Bechinas birurim that we did now, and iskafia v'satva, the transformation that we did now, which is called shalom. That will be called shalom, transferring. That's what he says. V'shavdi v'shalom el beis avi. Where is this? It's the previous page. Let's go back and look and see. That's the name of this essay. Here it says, V'shavdi b'shalom, and I will come back in peace to the house of my father. This is Yaakov saying. Yaakov is saying, I'm going now to Haran, worst place in the world. God, please be with me. He took all these stones, made them into one stone, poured oil on it, says, that's my job. I'm going there in order to unify the world. And eventually I'm going to come back in peace to the house of my father. Who said, who's this house of my father? The father of Jacob was Yitzchak. Yitzchak is this, we'll see the pleasure that God got every moment that we served him. Now we don't see it, but we will see it. And that's the idea of the Moshiach and this physical world and the third temple being built in Israel. And that's called returning in peace. Why in peace? Oh, now we're going to see. Why is it called in peace? Ki bechinas oneg, this level of pleasure that's going to in the future. We said no. Yeah, we did this. Oh, that's what here it is. Ki shalom is, what is peace? Peace is joining two opposites. Like it said, Ose Shalom Bimromav, that God makes peace in the upper worlds. What type of peace is there in the upper worlds? The angel Michael, I guess, this is the how do you say, the chief angel of water and kindness. And Gabriel, this is the chief angel of fire, and both of them are infinite, and nevertheless they get along together. That's called peace. And so it's the same thing by means of our difficulties that we are having in this world now, which that's one opposite, is this united with the oneness of God. That's another opposite. That's called peace. So specifically, only by means of our suffering through this terrible world and all the confusion that there's in it, is there's going to be the amazing revelation of peace in the future, that all the good deeds that we did are eternal. And the fact that we overcame the difficulties, those difficulties in a way, they're also eternal. What's the first of the 10 commandments? I am God that took you out of Egypt. What do you got sticking Egypt in there in the 10 commandments? Because the difficulties and the bad things in the world, they also come from God. And the fact that we went out of them, this is a big, amazing thing. That's uniting two opposites. The creator with the creation, difficulty with a victory, confusion with order, cursing, which this world is a cursed place, and blessing, making the world a blessed place. That's called shalom, and we'll talk about this more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let us learn the Davar Malchut. 1 minute. Oh yeah, you can't do it.